You know, contrary to popular belief, words have meaning. So what the fuck is this nonsense about Zootopia 2 straight baiting its audience?
Ha! That's a good joke, ain't it? Fuck out my motherfucking face. Ain't shit funny right now.
These kids are just making shit up. I hate it. Maybe I am just a full-on hater since I lived through the whole John Locke debacle, but watching queer representation go from a drought to a drip feed, this term blowing up has been driving me insane. Because while being online means nothing is sacred, everything is stolen from AAVE, Gen Alpha is trying to rewrite history to say that unk means uncool, but you know, somehow it's the furries who are the ones that are gonna make me crash out. And that's because, again, words have meaning. And while straight baiting may be really fun to say, watching a term that was originally about companies exploiting queer audiences for profit get used to describe a straight will they won't they romance is a level of slander that I cannot stand for. So allow me as your local fandom elder to complain about pop culture and the tragedy of how anything that goes mainstream will get stripped for parts, muddled, until people look at you crazy for just using it correctly.
It seems hyperbolic to the extreme degree.
So, quick history lesson for those of you who aren't terminally online but still of your own free will clicked on a video about straight baiting. And if autoplay brought you here, thank you for the check, YouTube. Queerbaiting is a term that refers to a marketing tactic in which a piece of media will tease the idea of them having LGBT representation, only to tell them to fuck off and then not deliver. This is corporate virtue signaling at its finest, the appearance of inclusion without the substance. And while it would be very entertaining to call Starbucks' whole Pride Frappuccinos queerbaiting, no, that's just rainbow capitalism.
We've got to have money.
3, 6, 5, go. 3, 6, 5, go.
Queerbaiting, as the term was previously used applied to fiction, is when creators hype up a story as having queer characters only for the text itself to never actually commit. And when this term took off, audiences, my generation, had already grown up with all of the implications, the subtext, that oh, maybe this will be a queer character if the writer tells us it is on Twitter. But at this point, we all weren't kids anymore. Some of us had standards. So saying they were in love off screen just wasn't cutting it. This was a post-Steven Universe world. If we were getting anything less than Space Rock's lesbians, it was gonna get mocked for its cowardness. Or worse, called bait. Because dang the idea that a character might come out someday, just to keep queer audiences invested is, how we used to say, a dick move. Naturally, there were different levels to the intentionality and egregiousness of the bait. Some shows famously wanted to provide some actual new representation, explicitly promising a character would be revealed to be gay, only for the actual storyline to give so little it felt genuinely insulting. I speak of course of Voltron.
I've got a class to teach.
I don't think it's possible to describe just how badly Voltron shit the bed with Adam and Shiro. And it's like, I just don't know how to explain it. Thankfully, I got a guy.
Oh god, did someone say Shiro and Adam? Imagine being a Voltron fan, like a normal Voltron fan, and you just got done with season 6. Crazy Keith and Shiro fight, he almost dies. His hair's white, and his arm's gone like he fend a human. That season 7 trailer hit, we see Shiro looking in a longing fashion at what seems to be a male figure. Oh, is that legit crew representation of my Voltron? The crew has acknowledged the clan's nomenclature and played in our faces, but I think he actually gay. Oh yes, look, he is actually gay. W Netflix for the promo. As a loyal at that time Voltron fan, I can't wait to see how this develops Shiro's character and how this mystery figure gets developed as well. He's gonna be in a flashback and die off screen, isn't he? God damn it, I guess I have to vicariously live through fan art and fan fiction because we won't actually know how this guy is because he's barely characterized in the like 5 minutes he has on screen. And of course at the end, Shiro gets his courtesy post-credit scene, boyfriend that will never know.
Company really said, oh yeah, we got some rep. Butts got put in seats. only for people to watch one of them get buried in one of the most infamous barrier gays of the late 2010s. Promises were made, they were not delivered, and the attempt to course correct was so tacked on, it genuinely would have been better if they did all of this no promotion and just tweeted, oh yeah, FYI, Shiro's a switch, as at least then people wouldn't have gotten their hopes up and had to suffer through whatever this was supposed to be. Now, the devil is in the vague details, as queerbaiting is admittingly fandom nonsense. It ran on vibes. Some shows were deemed to have promised more than they gave, therefore got labeled bait, while others only gave scraps and got away with it. Then, most infamously, there was whatever the fuck Sherlock was doing.
On the hours for you and for your date.
Do you want to eat?
I'm not his date.
For how much the creators kept saying that the characters aren't supposed to be gay, they really leaned into the idea whenever it suited them. Often to a point where even if they were trying to show an intense fraternal bond, having Sherlock refuse to deny the idea that he's into men after saying he isn't into women is an insane stunt to pull. Because that shit happened in episode 1.
You don't have a girlfriend then?
Girlfriend? No, not really my area.
Do you have a boyfriend? Which is fine, by the way.
I know it's fine.
And
Look, to be fair, older media should be given some grace. Nobody should be watching Crossfire and complain about how they don't address how the main character isn't explicitly gay like he is in the book. But this was made during the Hays Code and people are getting arrested for this shit. So yeah, we're gonna give it a pass. But as those topics and these depictions became more acceptable, people's expectations grew. It went from a small wink and a nod that only queer people would get to a demand for it to be obvious to everyone watching. Everyone's personal standards are different on what counts as good rep and when subtext is acceptable, but even if it came out years earlier, I don't think anyone was going to be happy with what Sherlock did.
How many times Sherlock was not my boyfriend?
Live and let live. That's my motto.
The problem with Sherlock is that even if you didn't want John and Sherlock to get together, the fact that the show treats the idea of them being a couple as a punchline, it was weird. Haha, funny the first time, but the fact that it becomes a recurring bit, that's a little shady. That's a little strange. Especially with how all of John's early love interests are just a distraction from his partnership with Sherlock, leaving the story in a place where I never really thought they were gonna end up together, but I think there is a bit of a disconnect between the writers and the fans, as the rabid LGBT, very young fans who enjoyed this show, they grew up consuming stories that use very specific kinds of subtext and tropes. So seeing them all happen in Sherlock had people thinking they were gonna get more than what the show actually wanted to give. Then Sherlock kinda came off as pretentious and shady by how much they started to regularly make fun of its fan base, mocking the fans who spent years trying to come up with theories about how Sherlock faked his death, being told by the show's creators that it was a puzzle that anyone could solve, only for it to turn out to be some shit that nobody could have guessed. And they also were making fun of the shippers. Which fair, but at a point, it really did feel like they would have moments just to bait these people. See, Sherlock was about to leave the country and started to give what sounded like a love confession, only for it to turn out to be a joke. Again.
John, there's something I should say. I've meant to say always and I never have. Sherlock is actually a girl's name.
Say what you want about people misreading two bros who are just really close, this is clearly intended as a fake out, to bait people's interest, and for those who came in and like wanting this to happen to see that rep, this must have sucked so badly. Now I know what you're thinking, when the fuck am I gonna talk about Zootopia? The answer's in a few. As you see, I first need to establish the history and intention behind the term queerbaiting, as it builds to my ultimate point about why its spin-off is derivative nonsense. Context is king, and it's a lack of it that allows something like straightbaiting to come to prominence. That and it is objectively funny to say. But if I were to break down why this term was able to so quickly get taken and used the way that it was, it isn't just a misuse or failed attempt to reapply the term bait to apply to Judy and Nick. I have to admit that fandom in general made this shit super easy, as queerbaiting at its core is about being promised then denied on-screen representation. Fuck the, oh yeah, IRL person is queerbaiting us, that will just never end well and puts a lot of pressure on people to perform in a very specific manner, and it's just, don't be doing that shit, please, I am begging you. However, when it comes to fiction, when we look at what people were asking for as proof of a character's queerness, then it pretty much was the same thing in every major example: ships.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Now this is the channel that the linguistic drift traveled through, allowing straightbaiting to be used the way that it is, and to have it make sense. When it came to the presentation of queer characters, the increasing desire for explicit, undeniable representation to not be a wink and a nod, but a fact that these characters and people exist. The emphasis in fan discussions was always put on characters getting to express their sexuality with relationships. Queerness doesn't supersede where a person was born, how they were raised, or what race they are. I mean, there can't be a standard way to really present a queer character without starting to lean into stereotypes. Making the easiest way for a story to show a character is queer by having them just be in a relationship, as that is the thing people would have gotten mad about 40 years back. But making getting together the end-all be-all, create a situation where if someone is just hearing people talk about queerbaiting without any greater context, it will often just read like the whole point is that a gay couple didn't get together, which is why straightbaiting had such an easy time being adopted as a joke term, as casual use becomes common use, and after a while it becomes the norm.
This is not your worst idea.
Wow, that was almost a compliment.
Your worst idea is what you did with your ears.
Judy Hopps is significantly thicker.
I
was paying attention. You clearly weren't.
So let's just get this out of the way. If straightbaiting was an actual flip on queerbaiting, it would mean promising a hetero story to lure in a straight audience only to give them a queer story. A phenomena that actually kinda exists, but it only happens once in a blue moon. Specifically, the only example that really came to mind was the promotion for Brokeback Mountain, where some of it emphasized the gay cowboys' relationship with their wives versus the actual romance of the movie. It wasn't the total thing, but it did happen occasionally with some of the posters. This case would be an actual proper use of the term straightbaiting, but given homophobia being what it is, tricking an audience into watching a movie about queer characters is not even close. It's not offensive. As tricking the largest audience possible into watching a story is what every movie does. And what makes queerbaiting so annoying is that it targets a group of people already at a disadvantage because society, and tricking them into supporting something that they wouldn't otherwise do, as instead they could go see an actually queer story. As really, it's about representation, not shipping. And given how any piece of kids media can have a boy and girl kiss with no pushback, only for a movie to endure relentless harassment over minor lesbian characters being in the background and married, it's clear that the straights aren't lacking in representation, nor do they really get any heat for it. So straightbaiting can never be a real issue, as it's the dominant expected norm. Meaning what people describe when they talk about Nick and Judy is it's just will they, won't they bullshit.
You know, the truth is I just don't want you to get hurt because... Abort! Because no one else in the world matters more to me.
Yes, I would absolutely describe the way Disney marketed and wrote Zootopia 2 as bait. It's there to build interest and get people invested in the story that they're telling. But the ending of Zootopia 2, it could lead to something more later. It is not a hard dissertation or disapproval of everything that the movie did or how it was marketed. I do think American audiences have been brain rotted by the constant romantic subplots in movies, so much so that interactions that would have no extra meaning if it were two men suddenly get put in extreme romantic light when it's just, guy-girl. Pacific Rim being the easy example to point to, where in a world where piloting a giant mecha requires two characters to know and understand each other, the process of the main two growing closer together, people thought this was romance when really it was just supposed to be friendship. Zootopia 2 though is not doing that friend shit, as not only are they sent to partner counseling that is designed to read like couples therapy, the movie is centered around their communication issues and their differing values and how those cause a rift. It also opens up with them pretending to be a couple and referencing the fucking abortion comic. This film is milking the hell out lot of people who want to see them as a romantic pairing. You can be disappointed that it doesn't end romantically, but, and here's the big thing, you can't say that this movie didn't tell a story about them. Nick and Judy's connection is the heart of this film. It is the focus of both of their characters, with the admission of how much they need each other and what they have to work on serving as the emotional climax to both of their stories. It drives the entire story, when if this was actual straight baiting, this film would have had them fake being a couple at the start, then not talk to each other for the rest of the film. There's a chance that they're gonna get together in the third film that you know they're gonna make, since this is the highest growing animated film ever, not named Neja 2. I think they'll get together in the third film, but also there's a chance they won't, if only because Disney is afraid of angry letters from parents of how they had to talk to their kids about two fictional animals from two different species ending up together. Now, I know the question the few of you who made this far are asking. What is the point of any of this? Is this really me just being pedantic about language? Yeah, basically. As I'm not a fool, I know there's nothing to be done at this point. The genie is out of the bottle and nobody who uses straight baiting is actually guilty of anything. So if I see anyone getting mad at other people using it, I'm going to be extremely disappointed in you, as I thought my fan base and viewers are better than that. As I would never advocate for harm to come to anyone, publicly. Now, the real reason I made this video is just to kind of make a note of something that I noticed and vent about its inevitability. Words have meaning, but that meaning is constantly changing whether we want it to or not. Queer used to just mean strange, then it became a slur that was then reclaimed. It's happening all the time constantly, but it does make me sad that something that once had a very specific meaning to me when I was growing up has now come to just be watered down and used in such a way that it starts to lose its original intent, disconnecting from that previous usage, and just who knows in another 10 years what it might be. So even if it is inevitable, I don't think that means the term's change should go unremarked upon. So here I am shouting the context into the void for any who would listen. And note how it sucks that something that is happening to me already happened. As queer baiting didn't originate on Tumblr, it was an LGBT version of race baiting, which is the incitement of racial hatred often for political purposes, because like everything else with queer lingo, it originally came from black people.